It's time for us to get love right, folks. And so we invite you to check out the King and Queen of Hearts.
This is an incredible training for couples who are struggling in unsatisfying sex lives.
It's also for lifelong learners, people whose relationship is great and they want to make it even better.
In this 3-part training that is filled with 8 different tutorials, like the art of tantric kissing, eye gazing that is deep and intimate, connective, and not creepy, and sacred sexual meditations, you do them with your lover to juice you up before sex. Communication tips and really, really valuable relationship essentials are all found in this training.
You know, a common mistake couples make is they wait, they put it off, they avoid, they resist. And if you want to continue doing that, well, good luck. But if you really want to make a change, get this today. Don't let another month go by where you're losing precious connection with your partner.
Plus, you can't beat the price on this program. One of our clients, Casey, said a spark in their intimacy is back on track.
Now, Sarah and her husband, you know what she told us, Willow? She said, finally, he learned how to kiss her right.
Oh my God, hallelujah. So happy for Sarah.
So if you want some radical changes in your love life, go to sexreimagine.com, click on courses, and scroll until you find the King and Queen of Hearts. And because you are a fan of the podcast, you can use the King and Queen 10 code in order to get 10% off. That is King and Queen 10, and you can use it in the checkout. Welcome back, our longtime listeners, and to our new listeners. Welcome to the show. My name is Leah Piper. I am your Tantra expert here at the Sex Reimagined podcast.
And I'm Dr. Willa Brown, your Taoist expert. Today we've got Lyuba Venable, who assists individuals and couples to cultivate more pleasurable sexual experiences. She's uncovered that pleasure extends far beyond reaching orgasm. It's actually a holistic way of life. So she's right up our alley. She does workshops in San Diego once a month, and she coaches people privately, both couples and individuals. And she was a delight to interview. You're going to love her.
She sure was. A lot of her work is, she was trained by Celeste and Danielle up in the San Francisco area, which is really cool stuff, sexual somatica. You're going to love all the juicy things she brings to the table. So tune in, turn on, and fall in love with Lyuba.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Lyuba, the beautiful woman who works with couples whose name translates to love. What do you think about that?
She's going to enlighten us with what it means to love and to love well inside of a relationship. I'm curious, Lyuba, right off the bat, do you work with couples who are in monogamous relationships, non-monogamous, or somewhere in between?
With everyone. I work with individuals and couples, and it's like a different dynamic, but like we all humans, we all want the same thing. We want intimacy, we want connection, we want more sex, we want to feel heard. And it's just like, no matter how you identify, what type of relationship you're in, it boils down to those basic needs that we all want.
Yeah. So true. What are some of the biggest problems your clients and your workshop attendees are facing? What are they complaining to you about?
So the number one, the most common reason that people come for coaching as a couple, it's usually sexless partnership, like sexless marriage, like so that there is sex disappears, right? And that happens. I don't know if it happened to you, but it happened to me that like when we start dating someone, that new relationship energy, the hormones, right? It's like as well, it's called honeymoon phase. And it's like everything, like we feel hungry and it lasts like 3 to 6 months, sometimes 2 years, but then it disappears, right? And then like people want that, but then that is not happening anymore. And then like sex somehow stops. And then the disconnect happens, right? And so that's what we are addressing when working with couples.
So what kind of modalities do you use when you're working with couples who are coming to you and haven't had sex? And I'm guessing maybe sometimes years, sometimes months. I was just talking to a friend the other day. She's like, this is the longest we've gone. And I'm like, oh, how long has it been? She's like, 7 weeks. I'm like, that's not that long compared
like,
to a lot of sexless
I know
marriages.
people, it's been years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all perspective, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There's nothing wrong whether it's been 7 weeks or it's been, 6 years.
Yeah.
There's no judgment in that. It's just how do you want to walk your way back?
Yeah.
Exactly. And many couples think that there is no way we can come back. But I'm telling you, as sex and relationship coach, there is a way. And so I'm trained with Somatica Institute. So they call it Somatica method. So this is like my main training, but as well I use Tantra.
Which one is that? Celeste and Danielle up in San Francisco?
Celeste and Danielle.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah.
Danielle. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I love their work.
Two powerful women just put together an amazing training. I'm just so inspired by them. And so just to what I see, to summarize it, that what happens for humans when we are together, live together, having kids together, we do financial things together, right? So we step on each other's toes. So that it happens, no matter how good match we are, how much in love we are with each other, we step on each other's toes. And that creates we put a little hedgehogs, bricks between, and the disconnect happens, right? So people live together, but there is a wall between. And that's a lot of times, when I work with a couple, I try to go into some touch and bring in some sexy energy, and they can't even touch each other because there is that wall, right? So we focus on repair, that the sins that hurt, that one partner did, another one got upset, and vice versa. So we go back to those sins and we create a repair when people can really get into their feelings and to see human in another person, right? Because a lot of times we see a monster there that they just do this horrible sin, right? So this is one aspect. And then another one, the core desires. This is what Somatica teaches, that every person, we have that feeling that we crave having in sex. And only when that feeling, when that feeling is happening for us, that's when we have the best sexual experience ever. And that feeling, we don't choose it. It's psychologically, it's built in us when we are kids, in a way there are wounds, anything that experiences that happened, then later we want to heal those wounds in sex. And so helping people to find that feeling, right? And then find ways how to create it in sex. And a lot of times for couples.
Lyuba, are you talking about core erotic themes? Is that what you're referring to?
So I see, I didn't hear that exact naming, so I'm not sure. It's probably a different modality. I wonder if it's a similar scene.
Yeah.
Could you say what it is?
Yeah. So Dr. Jack, and I always forget his last name. And I the reason why the first time I heard of core erotic themes was from a student of Danielle's and Celeste, which is kind of what made me think when you said that core feeling that you want to feel. And my understanding is that the core erotic theme comes into play as a young person, right? As a young child. There's usually shame connected to it, but it's sort of an erotic essence that we are connected to that is operating in the subconscious. And so sometimes we're not, because it can be a little embarrassing. Sometimes it's hard to talk about it or to even look at it for yourself and then to say it out loud to somebody else. But when we can own that core erotic theme, it branches out into so many beautiful pathways for us to step into deeper intimacy and to actually find access to our erotic nature. Am I on the same track? I don't want to take you off track.
No, exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly. I love the term that you're saying, that core erotic themes. I learned it as core desires, but this is what you're talking about. Yes, there is that feeling and shame all usually there when we explore, when we find that feeling, because childhood wounds attached to it, right? There is shame that comes up. I want to give my example that it took me some time to really find what is my core desire, because there is a list of these feelings, like to feel wanted, to feel celebrated, to feel seen. And all of them sound so good, right? And just like, yeah, I want to feel seen. I want to feel celebrated.
Sign me
Right?
up.
Yeah, right. But there is something that is like, for each person, that is like, it boils down to that one that is like really deeply we are longing for. And so for me, I
Oh,
discovered
yeah.
it's feeling special. And so the moment I stepped into it, I went like, what are you talking about? Like, no one is special. Why do you want to be special? That's not okay. We are all equal. Like, you should, right? So there is that inner voice. So I needed to do some work around that before I could really talk to my partner and like really dive into that.
So there was shame around your core desire. There was actually like, no, you shouldn't want that. You shouldn't feel that way. Society told you
Yeah.
that, or you have that
Yeah.
limiting belief around yourself. You know, I think I've been talking a lot about this thing. It's so common for women to be like, I just want to be seen, you know, or I just want to be cherished, or I just want to be. What I come up a lot with women is, I just want to be seen by him. I don't feel seen by him. And I just keep seeing that these women are afraid to be vulnerable. So they're not showing themselves. Therefore, the man can't see them because they're hiding parts of themselves due to these shadows of shame. And so I'm just curious, like, how much you see of that in your work with couples, like these
Yeah.
shadows of the core desire.
Exactly that there is like, I love the saying that vulnerability is a new sexy, that like being
Oh,
vulnerable,
yeah, nice.
right? That
Yeah.
that being vulnerable, especially harder in our society to people socialize as men, that it's just like you have to be like puff up, strong, man up, don't be vulnerable, right? And it's confused with weakness, but then like actually getting exposed, right? Like to just be removing that armor and just like being who I am, that's hard. And that's something that we are working in coaching, like how to be vulnerable, how to be who you are, and then on another end, how to receive that, right? Like how to be really present and not drop that, because it can be very hurtful to be vulnerable with someone who can't hold it, who can't like meet you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
and
how do you
how
help a
really,
partner receive someone's vulnerability? How do you help them up level that?
yeah, that this is an amazing question, because how you receive it, that you're just really being present and listening with your heart, right? A lot of times that, like Carnegie says, that everyone is lying, but it doesn't matter because no one is listening. And there is like, there is truth in that, right? I even catch myself that someone is talking when it's a business meeting, and I already thinking like, do I agree or I not agree? And then like what I say next. And so, and it's okay, we're humans, we function like that. But then in these intimate settings, right, when person is sharing something, and especially when they say like, oh, I have something vulnerable I want to say, then me as a receiver, just to really to listen with my heart, and to try feel everything they say, and just like to bring empathy, to really emphasize like how they're feeling, how it is for them, and then trying to feel it, and then to name feelings. Sometimes person is talking, they don't say how they feel, and then I'm like, oh my God, that feels like, oh, like you felt really lost, you felt really lonely. And then this moment, like person starts having tears, right? That is just like when you really hit that, right? So that like you open your heart and you're receiving the whole person. Like I would say to my clients, in this moment, you're the most important person to me in the whole world. And I have my family, I have kids, right? But there is this moment that like I'm focusing on you so much that no one else exists. And that's that feeling, right? That's how you want to.
I heard a
Love
little
that.
quote from a local Santa Cruzian man. He was like a staple in this kooky community that I'm in, right? And he recently died, but he had a little saying that everyone's kind of throwing around now, which is like, when you give someone your full attention, it's like the sun shining down on you.
It really is.
Oh, that is so good. Oh, I love
And
that.
when you have such a deep craving or a wound about feeling invisible, I'm partnered with someone whose core wound is invisibility. And so it's like I have to really tend to giving that undivided attention to convey I see you. And I can be a little bit of a scatterbrain, so I miss the mark sometimes. But it's interesting when you have that core wound or that core desire of wanting to be seen, bringing that wholehearted listening to the conversation and giving them the presence that says what you have to say matters and what you feel matters to me because you matter to me. And slowing everything down to just be with someone in that place, that's how we heal each other. And I think that that's like really part of the essence of why we come together in partnership. It's because we do have these subconscious hurt parts. We have these little kids inside who are trying to like resolve all this stuff from the past. And it's like when we can show up with, I think, consciousness and purpose, knowing that our shit is going to trigger our partner's shit and vice versa, we can be really even more powerful for each other than that first 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, if you're lucky, where all you're relying on is brain chemistry. And it's so easy to want to rip each other's clothes off because you have this flood, these cocktail running through your brain that makes them like it's effortless to give them your undivided attention because you've got hormones that are racing through your body providing you with that attention. But then once you get safe with someone and you find yourself in commitment, our attention drifts and we're not, and our sexual energy drifts also. And we're kind of like, God, where is it? I used to be so horny all the time. I can't even find it anymore. So how do you help people with like their sexual energy that's like really flat? Once they kind of start to figure out the vulnerability, what's the next step to getting them on track in the bedroom?
Yeah, and this is where core desire comes in. Because a lot of times people are having sex when you're on hormones in your relationship energy. It just everything is just like hot and you just right? But then later, like this core desire that I notice when my core desire being touched, even outside of bedroom, I get turned on, right? So it's like finding that core desire and then for couples bridging it, because it can be that like core desires don't necessarily match. Like, for example, when I feel special and my partner wants to be a sorcerer, then it really matches because like he does everything to make me feel pleasure. That's his core desire, right? And that speaks to me feeling special. So that's great. But that's almost never happens with couples. That our core desires a lot of times quite opposite, that I'm special and my partner wants to feel wanted. So I want him to come and like do all of these scenes for me to feel special, right? But he wants me to do a similar scene to that he feels wanted, right? So then we really look for those creative solutions, how for couples to bridge, how to arrive in that they can flow. And so when desires are being touched, this is when erotic energy flowing. And I can say from my experience and from my clients that it goes so much deeper that it feels better than energy, than that like hormone stage, because we have this like, we tap into such deep places that it's like the longer we are together, the better sex, because we keep exploring, we keep deepening.
Can you give us a specific example, maybe just even from your own relationship or from a clientele or something like that, where it's like, in this example, you're talking about your desire to feel special. Like, what is a specific thing that you have your partner do to make you feel special? And what is a specific thing that makes him feel wanted? That's one part of my question. The other part of my question is, in this sort of like core desire model approach that you use, are there like 5 core desires that people generally have, or is it just a free for all? Like everyone has a different core desire. Are there themes or?
Yeah. Let me start with the second one. That's the easy.
Yeah.
There are like the feelings. There are so many and I would say like around 50, right?
50.
So it's just like
Okay.
not 5, right? It's like there are more common ones, but it just like, and it can be this positive feeling, like that you want to heal your wound in like feeling accepted, celebrated, special. But as well, it can be where even more shame comes up, when it's like feeling humiliated, feeling degraded, feeling used, like those feelings.
Stranger
that is just
danger is one of mine.
like,
That was
here
like
you go,
stranger
here you
danger.
go.
God, that's got to be threatening.
Or doing something prohibited, right? Like breaking
Right.
boundaries, like breaking the rules, right? And then person
Right.
goes like, what's wrong with me? Like, why my desire is not like beautiful, right? But that's the point, that like we remove shame, right? And it's like
Right.
all core desires are great. Yeah, and then for the first question, Willow, that with bridging this like that I want to feel special, and so what works for me, that my partner, and it's like it's a dance. Like I keep finding more scenes, but something that like so far works, that like the moment I pass by and my partner just looks at me and like, God, you're so amazing. You're so beautiful. Just like expressing that, like, look at you. Or like I get naked and then he just, wow, like he looks at my body and it's like almost he never seen me before, like that, that just like feeling that like, wow, I am special. Like we've been 8 years together and every time like, right, like he looks at me like that, or he just like comes to me and starts looking in my eyes and just like says something like really deep and meaningful, right? And it feels good as a person, but as well it turns me on because it's core desire for me. And so then for him feeling wanted, that's something that like he loves to that like I will just jump on him. Like there's something about jumping, that I jump on his shoulders and it's just like I pin him down. And for him, it's like, okay, she can't wait. She's just like, so.
Right. I'm irresistible. Yes, she has to pounce. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
ravish him, and or another scene that when I pull his sword, I say like, come here, and I bring his face close to me, right? And it's not necessarily power dynamic. It's just like he feels everything and he goes like, oh. And those scenes, right?
Yeah.
I would never do it because it's not in my like in my core desire, right? Like it's not in my system. But when I know that my partner really turned on by that, and every time I do it and I see how he himself, it becomes fun, right? And the more we do these things to each other, it just like, woo, it's like firing and firing, sparking, and it's flowing.
Yeah. I love it. It
That's
builds
so great.
circuitry.
So when couples are coming, because you do workshops every once a month down in San Diego people, by the way.
Yes.
She's down there doing them every month. So let's say a couple comes in and they're like, okay, we haven't had sex. We definitely have a problem. We haven't had sex in 5 years and we don't even have any spark for each other. And we're constantly dealing with children and we're constantly dealing with finances and the house and we don't even like, this is not even a relationship. It's like it's a business partnership. Like, how do you get them from A to what you're talking about, B?
Yeah. So what you're describing, Willow, they come for private coaching. So the case you described, they're not comfortable enough to come to a workshop, because in workshop you have other couples, right? So you want to be more connected for that, right? For a couple like that, I will not even invite them to a workshop. I work with them for a while and then I'm like, okay, maybe a workshop would be good for you.
Yeah.
And so how it goes that we work first on creating repair, removing that wall, right? So that like really, I invite them talking. You know how couples usually talk? Like one person says something like really hurting and another person gets defensive and they just start fighting in the office, right? Like some people more mellow, some like more intense. But then what I'm doing, just I would like interrupt them and like really bring to feelings. Like, how are you feeling? So that one person who is sharing, instead of saying that hurtful thing, like really feeling how I felt in that moment, right? And share it from my perspective. So when they share that feeling, partner who is listening, I really want them to emphasize. So I will not let them say any word until it's empathy, right? And then I help them. So we work together. We are like, oh, it sounds like, oh, like that feeling, that feeling. So we bring to feelings, and then tears come up, and it takes several sessions. Sometimes it takes like up to 10 sessions to just remove that wall, right? And then when the wall is gone, then we work on intimacy, just looking in the eyes, touching, for like non-sexual touch, just like getting that closeness. And then we bring the core desires. Because if I bring core desire at the first session, right, it's like they're not ready.
Right.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So with all these different avenues for core desires, what are some of the questions that you ask to help people start to discover what their core desire is? How do they start to name that?
Yeah, you're on it, Leah. Definitely. That's yeah. So in Somatica, visualization that we are doing, that think of your hottest sexual experience. And for some people, visualization really works. And for others, they're like, no, I will fall asleep, or they're like, they just don't want to close their eyes. So then we just talk, right? Then we have a conversation. And then as we are talking or they dive into visualization, it's all about thinking of that hot experience. And sometimes people never had hot sexual experience. They never had something they would call it the best sexual experience. Then I would say, let's fantasize. Like, what would be that? Like, maybe you saw it in erotica, maybe you saw it in movie. Like, let's just create it.
What do you masturbate to like get you turned on?
Yeah. And then we like really boil down to, what are you feeling? That hot moment that makes you like you're about to come. It's just so hot. You're like about to explode. What are you feeling? What feeling is like, what are you experiencing? And that's how, like, like a start, like they would say feeling, or they're like, I don't know. Then I will attune and try, like, come up with feelings that coming up for me. And so we start like playing with that. So just,
and when you say feeling in that moment, are you talking about like, what are you feeling like sensationally or emotionally? What are you asking about?
Let's take a quick break. Hey guys, what would it be like if you could last 10 times longer when you're having sex?
We are going to teach you how to gain massive confidence as a lover, all without performance anxiety, gimmicks, or prescription.
This course is perfect for you if you've ever been mortified by a sexual encounter that ended way too early.
Or if you've ever avoided intimacy out of fear that you won't last as long as your lover desires. Or maybe you long to give your partner multiple orgasms, but can't last long enough to make that a reality.
Well, good news, we've got your back, and it's in our course, Last 10 Times Longer. Go to sexreimagined.com/last-10x-longer.
And for all of our favorite listeners out there, we are giving you a discount, 20% off, y'all. Just put in podcast 20, all caps, podcast 20. To get your 20% off of this phenomenal course that you're going to want to review more than once.
The link is in the show notes. We cannot wait to see you inside this course. Plus, don't forget, we always got tons of bonuses. See you there.
That's I think it just combines that it's emotionally like, are you being like, you feel like really accepted, right? So, and then like what's happening, right? So it is emotional, but sensation is part of it too. That like, are you feeling like deeply seen? Or maybe you're feeling used, or right, like, and then like we are looking into like what, or some people like just, I feel like animalistic, I feel like animal, or I feel I'm in charge, right? So, and then we just like really go there. And it can be many things.
This is fun. So Willow, can we play this with you? Because I want to know what your core desire is.
I do too. Let's play. Let's play.
Oh my God,
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, what's my core desire? Okay, coach me, Lyuba. Hit me.
Hit me where it feels good, baby.
Oh my God, you're the best girls. Yay. So tell us about your hottest sexual experience. Or if you didn't have one,
Okay.
that would be.
Oh no, I've had some hot ones.
Just for
Okay. So, you know what? The hottest and the best for me is being seen, being connected, being like really knowing that person through and through. And then other hot ones where it's more like, just like just a quick encounter with somebody where we don't have that depth of relationship and connection. Then those hot ones include like, still a lot of intimacy, like a lot of just like deep eye gazing, a lot of soul connecting, and then a match with each other's bodies, a match with each other's rhythms physically, like my booty fits into your hip perfectly, that kind of thing. But then also my like my rhythm and my dance fits their rhythm and their dance.
And could you describe a specific experience? Because you're talking in general, like could you think of one specific one?
Sure.
Like, you don't say names, right? But just like really describe what was happening. Was it just like start talking about it.
Yeah. So in one super hot one, I think God must have lasted for 4 hours or something. Went on and on. And and I mean, it was just we were tossing. It was like it had that animalistic quality of like, but so much love and connection as well. Like such
Details.
a deep union and a bond. We're using a vibrator. We're using the infrared vibrator. So it had the light, that like red light was glowing in the room, and then he was inside of me and I was using that on the clit, going from all different positions, from behind to the front, on top, underneath. Let's see, what more about details? Oil, lots of oil.
Oh, okay. Like what? So it was one person, and it was just two of you. Are you wearing naked?
Naked. I mean, yeah,
naked. And are you inside?
Yes.
Like, is it inside? Okay. And then like, as this happening, like, what are you experiencing? Like, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling super seen, super cherished, super like physically charged, like very hot yoni, but also a lot of breath, like bringing it up through my whole shushumna, bringing it up through my meridians, up into my brain. A lot of tantric, sounding, breathing, going slow, then going fast, like taking a pause and just being in that languid place and then charging back up again,
Reveling.
and yeah.
And is it that like what is person? It's him, right? Like so what is he doing to you? Like what is it, like he's doing something or you are doing something? Like what is in those?
I think more just like a union, like to get like a flow, like a dance. Like nobody's doing anything, it's doing us. So we're just like being held in this like energetic flow, like this energetic dance.
Yeah. You just like this tell definitely that you're responding to energetic turn-on, right?
Yeah,
like tantra is hot for you, anything like you could meditate and then have an orgasm, or doing yoga have an orgasm.
Stuff
like
that.
And then like I hear how you say that you enjoy feeling seen. I wonder if there is that feeling almost like transcendence, that like you lose sense of yourself, that like there is no that person, it's just like you turn into something in the oneness.
Yes, definitely. I have lots of like pineal gland orgasms where it just goes like fractalation into the sphere of infiniteness.
Yeah, and then are you having those kriyas that your body is shaking?
Lots of kriyas.
Yeah, and you do them together, that like you connect in them?
Oh yeah.
Is this person,
And a
right?
lot of like upward draw, a lot of like getting to the edge and then pulling upward draw, bringing it to different areas in the body. And then also this is another turn on for me is like when somebody really understands anatomy and really knows the body, like at the same level that I do, that is
Oh.
the biggest
And
turn
then
on.
what is what there? What are they doing when they understand your body? Like what is
Maybe
happening?
like nibbling on heart 3 or like sucking on kidney 1 or like, nibbling behind along the conception vessel, all these different acupuncture
Oh my
meridians.
God. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So see, there is here like I would say that feeling seen is something that is like definitely like you respond to that. And there is deeper. That is deeper than like transcendent, feeling that like transcendence, just like losing yourself. So I think that's something that is very important for you sexually. That like when you tap into that like that's when it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you're safe enough to truly dissolve and go
Yeah.
out to the airwaves and like zing, zing,
Yeah.
zing, zing, zing,
Yeah.
the body dissolves a little bit. Sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. It needs you in that. So it's important for you that they dissolve with you.
Let's take a quick break.
Ladies, do you want to explore your sexuality and experience true sexual healing?
The Vaginal Orgasms Masterclass teaches you and your partners how to unlock your full sexual potential and awaken the G spot, the sacred spot, and the cervix for an unforgettable sexual experience. Would learning how to finally surrender and release grief, fear, and uncertainty benefit your outlook on life, love, and relationships? We certainly think so. Common misconceptions of the G-spot, including its anatomy and function as an erogenous zone, will be covered in this course.
Plus, we're going to teach you 7 different massage strokes for the G-spot that dissolve blocked energy and increase your pleasure tenfold.
We're going to teach you how to locate the sacred spot and the best methods to stimulate it for maximum pleasure.
And you're going to learn about cervical orgasm techniques, which are the most powerful and also often elusive style of climaxing. This class is primarily geared toward women, but men have taken it as well and learned so much about how to pleasure their partners.
So get ready for multiple O's, my friends. And you can get all of that at sexreimagine.com/female-masterclass. And for being a listener of the show, we've got a beautiful coupon code for you. It is 20% off this course. Just type in podcast20, that's all caps, podcast20, and get yourself a great deal on this on-demand course.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to dissolve with me in their own experience, but as long as I can. Yeah.
Okay. As long as they create that space for you.
Yeah. I like the big strong arms and like, good space holders.
Big strong arms. Oh my God, that they can hold you. They got you, right? That you can like fall, they'll catch you. Yeah, that just like maybe submitting, like getting into that like submissive space.
Yes, definitely. That's good for me to be in that receptivity place. I liked what you were saying earlier on our interview where you were talking about receptivity and presence, because I always am saying to people, you can't receive what's coming tomorrow. You can't receive what came yesterday. You can only receive what's happening right now, So right now we're having this fun little like banter around like, what is Willow's core desires, and it's, that's what we're, that's what we get to receive right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Leah, your turn, girl.
Well, I was just thinking when she said earlier feeling used, I was like, oh yeah, of course, my stranger danger does lead to the desire to feel used, to be able to surrender and be a little objectified. I think for a long time that really scared me, those deep desires. And then when I stopped being afraid of it, or maybe I just healed enough, I realized like I want to keep moving in that direction because something really does open in me. Like the turn on moves really fast when I'm in spaces where I give someone permission to take their pleasure and to somewhat objectify. Now, I still need a level of devotion in that because I don't really get turned on by pain or being like too rough unless I'm at a super high level of arousal. So there's a little bit of mastery that has to be played with there. So I want someone to take what they want and to use me, but I also don't want to be roughed up too early or too soon because then my nervous system tends to get overamped and then I'm out. So there's like a real dance. I really want someone to like be totally paying attention and reading my opening and my closing. But I do kind of want to be manhandled and taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Like, to take the sweet innocence and just totally get nasty with it. And I want to feign kind of like the whole time, like, oh, I'm so corruptible. So there's some breaking rules in there. There's all sorts of stuff. But I think like if we were to isolate it, it would be feeling used.
Your self-awareness is so beautiful. I love how in details, you know exactly what you want and how you want it. And this is just like how the communication is lubrication, right? That like, let's say if you had a partner, you can describe them just in details, right? And this is such a gift that like they can know exactly what's working for you, what's not working. So that's just, that's a great model in what you did right now. And another thing I want to say that, again, like talking about shame, that like, because you enjoy being used sexually, it doesn't mean anything how you show up in life. Like in life, you can be very powerful. You can be like boss, like powerful, like the lady boss, right? And but then like just getting, because I found that conflict that like I am turned on by rape. And this is so confusing because I don't think rape is okay. And for many people, but then there is shame, right? Like there is like, oh, let me hide it. Something wrong with me. And it's not. Like we can even play it, right? Like I can just watch something and like really enjoy it. Just let the pleasure be. It can be something inappropriate, right? Like something that is not okay. But if it brings you pleasure, it's totally fine to go there. Consent has to be there. That's very important, right? That who experience their consent and they are grown-ups. But then like we can have all sorts of pleasures and then we get in life and it doesn't shape our life. It doesn't identify us. If I'm turned on by something, it doesn't identify who I am. That's just such an important piece.
I'm really glad you brought that up because this is a place that I think doesn't get named in the conversation. And it's actually another theme for me is I want to go deeper and play with my edges of consensual non-consent. And a part of that is playing in some of those realms where being taken advantage of, again, being used, having some of these ideas of like rape scenes, and that can be a turn on. I mean, you just look at what's popular on the web, and a lot of times people are looking at more of that hardcore porn and seeing a lot of these themes being displayed and feeling really confused about why does that turn them on? Why does that light them up? And I think it's important that you don't necessarily have to pour a ton of meaning into you're fucked up because this is what you like. It doesn't even mean that you want to act out your desire, because we have desires that in our mind take us to different places of opening and turn on. And that doesn't mean that we actually want to play them out either. I've got some fantasies in my head that are like, whoa, way too dangerous to like actually explore out loud in the flesh, like really way too risky. But I can think about them and turn myself on and then have epic sex because I've got a thread there. And I think we don't talk about allowing people to have permission, that just because they may have a controversial desire that they're afraid other people might judge, but that really works for them, that they need to be ashamed of it, right? Like if we could give more people permission to go, your desires are okay, no matter what they are. You just want to make sure that in the exploration of them, that you're exploring with people that are giving you consent, and that you have a safe place to talk about these desires so that you can name them, see them, allow them to flourish, allow them to grow and expand in your mind. So you've got more of these like hot movies to sort of explore in your head, without necessarily acting them out where you're now labeling yourself as dysfunctional or not okay, or like the continuation of shame continues to isolate you and keep you from having the kind of relationships that you want. How do you address that when people are starting to come face to face with the things, with the desires that they're afraid people will judge them if they were to admit them?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey guys, what would it be like if you could last 10 times longer when you're having sex?
We are going to teach you how to gain massive confidence as a lover, all without performance anxiety, gimmicks, or prescription.
This course is perfect for you if you've ever been mortified by a sexual encounter that ended way too early.
Or if you've ever avoided intimacy out of fear that you won't last as long as your lover desires. Or maybe you long to give your partner multiple orgasms but can't last long enough to make that a reality.
Well, good news, we've got your back, and it's in our course, Last 10 Times Longer. Go to sexreimagined.com/last-10x-longer.
And for all of our favorite listeners out there, we are giving you a discount, 20% off, y'all. Just put in podcast 20, all caps, podcast 20, to get your 20% off of this phenomenal course that you're going to want to review more than once.
We cannot wait to see you inside this course. Plus, don't forget, we always got tons of bonuses. See you there.
Yeah, deshamifying. There is this word I learned in somatic. I don't know if it's a correct English word. It's deshamifying, removing shame, right? That like when person comes up with something, a lot of times it's like, oh my God, like so many times people say, I never said it out loud. Like I never shared it with anyone. And then they feel they trust enough, right? Like they can open up, they say it. And then it depends how I respond to it, right? Like what is true in me, like I might really like just celebrate it and, you know, just like think that it's really hot, or even if it's not hot for me, just like to bring that, to normalize it, that it's your desire and it's okay. Like you can fantasize about it, or you can find people who give you consent and you can leave it, because we don't choose desires, right? Like that's the key, that we don't choose desires. And that desire they didn't choose. It doesn't mean, like you said, they're not fucked up. It just, they have that weird desire and it's okay. Like many of us, we have all sorts of desires.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because many of us do have a lot of wandering desires, so to speak, that we don't act on, but that are thought forms that run through the system and have open doors to certain states of arousal. I really hope, like one of my prayers for our culture is that we can start becoming more lovingly honest about what these things are, and that we have a place to look at them without judgment, and then to find out who do we get to become when we see these desires inside of ourselves, and we acknowledge these desires in other people. Like really, what's the potential of that? It'd be really fun to be like, I don't know, to be a part of a community that like explores that and studies it and does research on it for like 15 years or something, to kind of see what happens, because I think it's pretty untested. You know, I think we're still operating under a lot of fear and a lot of shame and a lot of discomfort when we start talking about sexual things. I was just on a cruise ship. And it was interesting, like 6,000 people on this cruise ship. I was like, oh my God, there's way too many people. I'm totally like, oh, this is not the boat for me. But, you know, people ask me what I do. And so, you know, I'm honest. I talk about intimacy. My show is called Sex Reimagined, you know? And so it's like, you can just start to see like the discomfort. It's almost like I can not only sense in my own senses of my system, but I can actually watch their body language start to get very uncomfortable, even when you use the word intimacy or you use the word sex. And I noticed like, and it was funny to be in this type of environment, because normally things just roll off my tongue pretty effortlessly. But I noticed the first couple of times I'm even tripping over my own words, because I'm sensing so viscerally other people's shutdown that occurs. And maybe it's because it's a stranger. I'm not really sure, but I found that to be really interesting.
I think it speaks to your fine-tuned ability to wield sexual power and energy, because there you are in an environment that is full of people who are shut down in that department and not comfortable talking about it in that department. And so it's a very different Leah that's showing up in that environment than would show up at the Tantra retreat in Tulum, you know?
There's a lot
And
of calibrating going on.
exactly. So
Yeah.
you've been doing this for so many years and for long enough that you can, what I call wield that sexual power, because being able to talk about it, being able to have conversations about sexuality is empowering in and of itself. Having knowledge about it, knowing about the 4 orgasmic pathways and the different parts of the vulva and the vagina and the erectile tissue and the arousal scale, like being educated on it is another level of empowerment. And so by default, as you study, as you practice, as you talk about sexuality, whoever you are, if you do it for a living or not, you are empowering with each one of those layers and steps along your journey. And so I was just speaking with a woman the other day who was like, God, I get really triggered by women who are inauthentically using their sexuality to like sell stuff, you know?
Oh, really?
And I was like,
Interesting.
so and she's like, but I know it's something in me, you know, she
Yeah.
was aware of that shadow inside of herself. And so I just think that, we're all on this journey of sexuality, whether we want to be or not, because if you have breath, you have sexual energy in your body. So it's all just innate. It's part of our DNA. It's part of our health. It's part of our lives. And we can sweep it under the rug until the cows come home. But that's what you're saying, Lyuba, is that's when the resistance and the shadows and the danger starts to grow. And that's just true of everything, but especially things that are super taboo, like sexuality and finances.
Yeah. So, like, in closing, Lyuba, I'm curious, what do you say to the partner that's really having a hard time listening to their partner's desires? Like, they got judgments that are just coming in, their walls are closing down, they don't like the desires that their partner is communicating, and they're being really like either judgy or even recoiling from their partner. How do you help them deal with that energy?
So that's a tricky situation, because when we are together in the room, it can get very unsettling. So in case like that, like when I notice something, I would suggest individual sessions. It's a lot of times it happens that like it's more productive to address individually, even sometimes core desires, that like person opens up more. They will share more about their what a sex. Maybe it wasn't with their partner, maybe it was before, right? And so I would have a separate session, like when we are one-on-one with that person, and then we tap deeper, like in them. Because this is what I know, that I walk through the world, right? And there are sins that I don't pay attention. And then there are sins that I really love. And there are sins that I really hate. And those, like, it touches something in me, right? So if person is having strong reaction, it means something is being triggered in them. So we just need to dig deeper and just to really look. And maybe there is a reason there with that partner, right? Like they're doing some inner work. Because we don't pay attention to sins. It's fascinating how oblivious we are as humans, unless that sin like really touches something in us, right? Then I have a strong reaction. It can be either positive or negative, but it's usually something in me when I'm having action. So, and then we just work on that.
Yeah. Well, how can people work with you? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website, lyubavenable.com, and my name, how you spell it, it's Lyuba, and then my last name, Venable, and you probably will list it
we'll
under the
put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And so when people go on the website, that like you can schedule free consult call with me for those who are ready to work and interested. I work in person and on Zoom. A lot of powerful things happen on Zoom online, which is just fascinating how intimacy works, across cities.
That's right.
And then and on this discovery call, we usually see a very good match. If like what they're looking for, I can really help. And so if it's a yes, then we schedule a session, or if it's a no, I'm happy to talk to people, and just like direct them into like point them in the other directions. And if people are not ready for session yet, I invite you to sign up for my mailing list. I send emails where it's like how to pleasure your life. And I send for tips and tricks and create recordings for like how to interact with each other in the bedroom when I have my voice guiding certain scenes. So yeah, just sign up for mailing list.
Great.
And-
Awesome.
and the
Well, thank you
workshops.
so much. And then, yes, tell us a little bit about your workshops.
Yeah, so the workshops, I created this series, workshops for couples, and we have new theme every time. So we just had workshop on core desires, and the next one will be how to ask for what you want. So asking for what you want, where we do exercises. It's experiential, so we use touch, we talk. So it's like people get to explore like, what do I really want? And then how do I ask for it? How do I ask for it in such a way that they want to do it for me, they want to give it to me? And then every month a
Awesome.
new theme. So it's like it keeps going. It's every time so yeah, check it out there on my website.
And then
Love
how
it.
long are your workshops? Are they usually like day long or a couple hours or weekends?
Well, they are around 3 hours. So we have like potluck or tea time before, and then it's 3 hours,
Cool.
and it's usually in the evening. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday evening, and it's like 6 p.m. to 9. So it's like
Fun.
just to unfold in the evening, to just like dive in together, and then after that you go to bed, or you have a fun
Yeah.
sex
Or you
night.
get turned on and you do other things before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Love it. Yeah.
Oh, well, it was lovely having you on
So
the
good.
show.
Thank you, Lyuba.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so much fun. You are so much fun. The energy is so rich. And thank you for being my client, Willow. I enjoyed it so
Yeah.
much.
That was so fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, stay tuned because up next you've got The Dish with your girls, Leah and Willow. And again, check out Lyuba, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
All right, dishity doo dah, the
Ah,
beautiful
we're dishing.
Lyuba Venable. What a cool name, Lyuba Venable. I mean, it's like so delicious. It kind of makes me want to eat
Rolls
her
right off
name.
the tongue.
It
Yeah.
sure does. It sure does. Little Leah Venable. Lyuba Venable. Willow Venable.
Yeah, it's a good
It's
last
fun
name.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's funny, when I look at names, I often look at their letters and then I imagine the letters in script. I don't know why I visually do that whenever I see the letters in a name, but she's got some good letters. She's got an L. She's got a Y. She's got a V.
A V.
She's got a B. I mean, those are some sexy fucking letters, if you ask me. So way to go, Lyuba's parents.
Yeah, and she's a pleasure to chat with too. We had
Yeah.
so much fun just talking
was
about.
really
I really
fun.
liked her whole shtick on the core desires. That was fun.
Yeah, I
Very
do
fun.
too. It reminds me a lot of that is work that was created by that this book I've been obsessing over called The
Yeah.
Erotic Mind
Yeah.
by Dr. Jack, and I will get the name and put it in the show notes. I don't know why I have such a block of that last name. But anyways, it was really interesting because the research that he developed, for years and years and years, he would collect data on two things that he would ask people. What was their hottest, most turned on sexual experience of their life? So that's where she was leading you into like really kind of naming what happened.
Yeah.
Why did it turn you on so much? What was happening that you were able to open so big? And then the other question was, and then what's your hottest fantasy? What do you think about when you want to get turned on? And as a result, all these data points came in. And this is where he kind of came up with the core erotic theme, which they're calling the core desire. And once you can start naming your core desire, what I noticed in my body is like once I started to map out, there's something about stranger danger. And then when I got today, it was like, oh yeah, there's that being used piece, right?
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of correlations, if you knew my history, how, oh yeah, that makes sense that there's some shame there and there's this being used. And then I went through a big era of my life of like being very angry about being used. And now I'm on the other side and I couldn't be more safe in my sexuality ever. And now I really want to be used. Like I want to act out scenes about being used. And then and once I finally kind of got to narrow in this whole idea of stranger danger, then the ways to get me to turn on became richer and more interesting because I just had to get my head in the game. And I don't need to be in a fantasy with a lover. I don't need to stay in the fantasy in order to have a really hot sexual experience. But there is something about getting a flash of a movie scene of whatever that stranger danger is or that objectification, like where I'm one of the stars right in my head that's having this flash of something that just opens me. It's like suddenly the blood rushes to my vulva. I'm getting wet. I want to be penetrated. Like all these things start to happen. And it just feels like a part of my own journey to sexual sovereignty to understand that I've got this core desire. And in that core desire, there are thousands of movies that branch off from it that enriches my experience of my body, whether I'm diddling myself or being diddled by someone else. Like I feel like what's opened is I can get turned on whenever I want to. I'm responsible for my orgasms as a result. Like coming is so much easier. Getting horny is so much easier. My libido spikes so much better, which means I'm also sort of controlling a little bit with more efficacy the hormones running through my system.
For sure.
All because of this core desire shit.
I love
it. I just find it really empowering. But like 15, 20 years ago, if I had been exploring this in my Tantra community, specifically, probably my Tantra teacher would have been like, it's not okay to fantasize. Like fantasy is a big no-no.
Right.
Only be in this present moment.
It's present moment only.
Yes. And I think that's really short-sighted. I think that the two can exist at the same time. And
well,
it's not
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like you're like we've said so many times, your brain is your biggest sexual organ. And that's what gets you to a heightened level of arousal. With the person that maybe you've been with for 25 years, you might not just be able to be present with that person in order to get that arousal level going. But once the arousal is going, then you're right there with that person. You're dropped in, and it doesn't mean the flashes of the fantasy don't come through your mind as well. I think one of because that's in the Tao too, like don't fantasize, be in the moment, be present. And, sure that can work if you're with a new lover.
Right. Like sometimes that doesn't always get you to, Twitter pated.
Yeah, exactly. But there's, I think one of the things that both Tantra and the Tao are speaking to is to not fantasize about somebody else, like in a, in a, like if you're in a monogamous relationship or whatever. But even that, it's like, you know what? I was turned on by the guy at the gas station the other day. It was hot. Now here I am with my husband. Like I'm going to use that.
I'm going to bring that energy into my connection.
Yeah. And I've coached so many women. They'll be like, oh my God, there's this guy, but I have this husband and what do I do? I'm like, dude, use it. Bring it to your adrenal glands. Bring it to the bedroom. Like it's your experience. It's your energy. Bring it to your experience. Bring it to your experience with your lover. And utilize it.
I mean, I can also empathize. That someone might be listening to this and going like, that just triggers so many wounds.
Yeah.
Of like when you've been cheated on a whole bunch, or you've been in a partnership with porn addiction or sex addiction, and there have been secrets and like all this stuff, and it really sort of corrupts your feeling of desirability, and like there's so much pain that can also be wrapped up in the idea of someone like fantasizing. You can be very resentful of your partner's fantasies.
That's true.
Because that's the way that they open to sex. And so I just want to like name, like I get that. And there's different extremes and all. It's like not a blanket thing.
It's not black and
white.
There's
nuances. Yeah. And like if you're in that situation, there's a couple things that are being pointed out. I think one is dealing with your own pain and working with the judgments that arise at the idea of someone else's fantasy opening them and then bringing that to the sexual table with you. And one of the things that I realized as a turn on for me, like how I would work with my mind to work with that in my own nervous system is like, well, I kind of want to know what your dirty ass fantasy is, whether I'm in the scene or not. Like, what's going on in your head right now? Like, I kind of want to know what's the dirty thought that's
What turns you
opening
on?
you
Mhm.
so that there's a place for inclusiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if I'm necessarily in the scene and you're fucking someone who has a totally different body type than me, I
Mhm.
kind of still want to know. I want to
Mhm.
find a way for my partner to bridge me into the experience
See, now
so that
that
I'm not
takes
isolated from it.
yeah, that takes a lot of self-work and
Yeah,
confidence in order to get to that level, because so many
totally.
people are going to be resistant of that, and that's okay if you're at that place. It's totally normal as well. So,
Right.
just really the main thing is to honor where you're at and stay present with where you're at. And if your fantasy is from the movie you saw the other night, then and you need to use it with the person you've been with for such a long time that you don't have much drive with them. It's like whatever is going to turn your drive on, use that to get yourself to that level. Because when you do have high levels of arousal and high levels of oxytocin flooding through your body, you are in a more receptive and open state. It does
Yeah.
bring you into presence automatically. So, sometimes you have to use these other, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing or bad thing. It's just a thing that you do.
Right. And I think also like there's so many different ways to approach all this. It's kind of a very rich conversation because there's nothing that's like straight. It's not black and white here. There's so many versions of like how do you work with this material when it's in your face, if it's triggering you, if it's opening you.
Yeah.
How can you foster a sense of unconditional love so that we can bring these desires to the table without feeling threatened by them?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's really interesting that's an added skill is not using your fantasies to escape.
Mhm.
Because then it's like, well, who is my partner even having sex with? Because do I
Yeah.
matter?
It's
They're
not
not
an
even
escape.
here.
Yeah.
They're in La La Land having
Good
a
point.
total porn fantasy, and it doesn't even matter that I'm the one they're fucking,
Right.
And so, like, there is a place where you do have to wake up. I mean, the idea of like, let's play with conscious loving, let's play with conscious sex is
Mhm.
you're not withholding the things that open you. You're
Mhm.
finding ways to put them on the table. Your partner's finding ways to not judge them and also
Mhm.
putting their own desires on the table. And then you use these desires as fuel, but you don't use them to create more separation. You use them to create connection.
Yeah.
And so finding creative and safe ways
Yeah.
to do that in your relationship and being open-minded when you've
Yeah.
been in a marriage for 10 years and you're not having sex even every month, you're maybe lucky to have it on your anniversary and your birthday.
Mm.
Like, how do you find your way back? Well, it's going to take, let's get our minds and hearts open. And I
Yeah.
like that she leads with getting vulnerable, building intimacy,
Listening.
and then
Yeah.
taking a look at cars
Yeah.
because it can be sticky material.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
There you
fine.
go.
Well, thanks, Lyuba.
Much love. Yeah.
And thanks for tuning into the show.
Yeah. Thanks for all your
Please,
likes, shares, and subscribes. We really appreciate it. It helps our channel grow. And we know that this information is very much needed in the world. That's why we do it. So sending you all.
let's keep the conversation going
Yeah.
in the comments, y'all.
Yes.
Love, love, love.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.